And welcome in, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Dynasty Force Podcast. Glad to have you back. Sort of a 1 week hiatus, kinda, not particularly, but not a Dynasty Force Podcast episode last week. But we're glad to be back. And I'm here, as always, with my co host of knowledge, Billy Brisbane. How are you doing today, Billy?
I'm doing good, Rob. It's a Friday. Got the UFC slate tomorrow. We got an NFL slate to chop down here on this Friday. So, just chilling here. Another day in the grind, man. And you got NBA coming up in a couple of weeks. So, I'm excited for that one.
It's funny because, like, theoretically, the new NBA season would have started already at this point, like, had timing been right with everything, but it just kind of feels like obviously it feels like basketball just ended because, like, what was it, a month and a half ago that the Lakers won the finals, and now a few weeks away from basketball here. So it's exciting, though. I like having it back to back here. I think the Lakers are the clear choice for the championship again. Would you? I know you're a Sixers fan, but I don't know how excited you are for them to win the championship. Any other picks for this year, but besides the Lakers?
Since it's a podcast and we are trying to get a little bit greasy here, I feel like my dark horse team coming into this year is going to be the Dallas Mavericks. So I'm excited to see what Luka Doncic can do this year. Porzingis might be out in the early parts of the season, so you know what that means. Luka's going off for triple doubles.
Definitely. Now, they did lose a few pieces, depth more than anything, but no, I saw preseason bets. Luka and Giannis were tied for preseason odds at MVP, and I can definitely see that. Luka's just been so great so far. Yeah, so excitement for the NBA. Here we are with the NFL. Right now, though, welcome in once again. If you're not following us on Twitter, you should be. It's at Dynasty Force Pod on Twitter, Dynasty Force Podcast on YouTube. And obviously, you can follow each of us. Billy, what do you have going on your Twitter of the upcoming schedule?
Yeah, upcoming schedule for me on Twitter is obviously be tweeting out plays as usual, as I usually do. College basketball is back. Pretty good streak over here for college basketball. Besides the free plays, what I have going on is some Pub Sports Radio stuff, channel that I always talk about on here. Really good channel to get more sports knowledge and really help out your betting information stuff. We have episodes every day of the week. So really good for the sports fans out there. And right after this, we're doing a DFS video over there. So make sure you check out that video because it should be a profitable one. I got one of my guys from sports. He's a former Sports Info Solution worker over there. So should be a good episode.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be excited to tune into that one. And we got our normal fan here tuning in again, Detroit Beastie. Missed you guys on Wednesday. For those of you who are listening to the podcast and maybe you listen over the weekend to get ready, we normally record on Wednesdays live on Twitter and YouTube, as I normally mention multiple times throughout the podcast. But here this Wednesday we did not, because number one, football was on TV. Obviously, not going to talk about football while football's on. People would much rather watch football. And then also, it's hard to talk about week 13 when week 12 is still going on. So we pushed it back to Friday. But I actually like how this has worked out. So may do more of that in the future. We'll have to see. Thank you for tuning in, Chris, Detroit Beastie. As always, love the interaction. On my Twitter, at Fantasy Force FB, I tend to retweet a lot of content, and besides that, most weeks it's been less frequent as of recent. Matchup breakdowns last week didn't do it because there were just a lot of situations with COVID that were kind of throwing everything off. And I was doing the matchup breakdowns, and just as I was going through the matchups, it was just like, man, like I don't even know what to say about half of these matchups, like because they were just missing so many people and they were pivotal. And it's like, it's hard to make that adjustment this week. There definitely will be one. There's some injury news to talk about, obviously, but not nearly as much COVID issues. So it will be out this week, likely on Saturday. And keep an eye out for that. And if you happen to miss it, make sure to check my pinned tweets on Sunday. It'll be in a thread on Twitter, and there will also be an article with a more in-depth breakdown. So, yeah, feel free to check that out. Now, Billy, upcoming, obviously, it's week 13, which means it's 1 week before the fantasy playoffs. How are you looking? Like, do you have any leagues that are, poised to potentially make a run this year?
Nah, man. Unfortunately, man, had a bad fantasy season. Went against the grain here, man. Went against my usual strategy of zero RB. Yeah, nah, man. If you really look at it this year, the most successful teams in redraft leagues are the zero RB type of teams. If you got a wide receiver in Travis Kelce and then got like a guy like James Robinson or something like that out of waivers,
unless you got like Michael Thomas early. Like if you got Devontae Adams and maybe Tyreek Hill or one of those two guys, then you would be set pretty well. But Michael Thomas so far has killed people, and he was seen as like the most sure thing at the wide receiver position so far. The reason I threw DeAndre Swift's picture in here is because like he's kind of everyone's favorite for that fantasy MVP sort of thing, like to come on hot over the last few weeks and just light teams up and help you win. We'll see about that, but here's hoping since I have him on a roster. So Bill, real quick, you mentioned that you had a bad year. Is there something that you plan on adjusting for next year? Because this is something that I think all fantasy managers should be aware of and able to do themselves.
Well, for me, man, I really feel like I just got to put a little bit more focus into the season-long content stuff because I'm a big DFS guy, and I knew coming into the season with COVID and stuff like that, this is going to be a pretty good, profitable DFS season of recent. It feels like everybody's using projection systems and different. Everybody's sharp nowadays, you know what I'm saying? It's not like what it used to be like when I first started playing like 8 years ago. So it's like way different than what it used to be like. So this year was like a lot of just like dealing with late information and stuff like that. So one thing that I've been doing a lot of recent is using my DFS projections for some of my season-long projections, kind of like combining the two and then using the two to compare against like player prop and stuff like that and see if I have like a advantage against what the books are putting out or something like that. That's one thing that I've been doing a lot of recent this year that has really been successful for me for my player props.
Interesting. I do like that. For me personally, as far as championship playoff aspirations go, I currently am in, I want to say 2 redraft leagues where I could compete. Obviously, like I've clinched for the playoffs already. One, I'm more confident in my potential to compete, led by Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift as pictured. I've got other guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, fingers crossed on Dallas Goedert. We'll see how he performs with Zach Ertz. But I also have Miles Sanders on that roster, and he's kind of the X factor for my team, because he's talented, he is a good player, but that Eagles offense has really brought him down in recent weeks. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on Miles, and if he comes through, then the ceiling for my team is kind of limitless. With that's a redraft league where I'm at, and then I also have one other separate Dynasty League where I'm keeping my eye on specifically. It's 10 teams, but it's very deep in that there's a ton of roster spots for starters. It's 3 wide receivers, super flex, and 4 additional flex spots. So I got Russ, I got Lamar Jackson, I got Chris Carson, Kenyon Drake, and Chase Edmonds, who, in 4 flex, he's a fine flex. Raheem Mostert, Devontae Booker this week, Travis Kelce, Julio, Adam Thielen, Brandon Cooks. I also got some depth guys. Mike Davis, I met. CMC, we'll see. Joe Mixon, if he wasn't hurt, could help a lot. So I could definitely challenge for the championship this season, especially if Joe Mixon comes back. We'll have to see about that. But those are the 2 leagues I'm most excited about. And I really think I can push for a championship in those leagues. So just got to stay tuned and see if I can come through for the pod, come through for all the listeners. That's my goal. All right, let's move on here. Talk about some news heading into week 13. The reason I kind of like this Friday pod a little bit better, Bill, is that injury news is much more clear. Trying to guess who's going to play in week 13 on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday, it probably was. Wednesday news was that Josh Jacobs was expected to be fine for week 13, but here we are now. He's out. So it's completely opposite, and it's hard to tell. So that's why I kind of like these Friday formats a little better. May see about sticking with it, but that's yet to be determined. So we'll let you know. We'll keep you updated. Anyway, as I said, Josh Jacobs rolled out for week 13. Devontae Booker will start. We can dive into this a little more later, as I know Billy would like to. But this is kind of important to highlight. Now, Vegas kind of just imploded on themselves last week and looked atrocious against the Atlanta Falcons, who are one of the worst teams. Well, one of the
more disappointing teams.
Yeah, they started off a lot worse than they currently are, but they're still not very good. And the Raiders the week before took the Chiefs to the limit, so they should have at least been competing last week. And they didn't show up. So we'll have to see this week. It's kind of hard to not show up against the Jets, but we'll see. Devontae Booker is definitely in play this week. I just picked him up on that Dynasty roster for free on Wednesday because, the potential of Josh Jacobs not playing. Now he's not playing, so that's a good little fill-in for me.
Yeah, good move.
Moving on here, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is questionable for week 13 with an illness. I would expect him to play. I think I saw something about this illness yesterday and that he was feeling better today, but he's still not, 100%. And, it's not COVID, but any injuries with any players now, whether they're COVID related or not, cause worry, for every sort of issue. If you see someone coughing in public, doesn't mean they have COVID, but you're going to be scared about it, right? So, yeah, that's just the situation we're in now with the NFL. So we'll see if Clyde gets cleared, we'll say. I think he will, though. You think so, Bill?
No idea, because it's a Friday, so it's more of a Saturday type of question. I have no idea what to think about this. I just saw this noon today.
Probably also
and the Chiefs play Monday night, though. They don't play Sunday.
Do they?
Or they play Sunday night. I thought they played Monday night this week. I think it's the Sunday night game this week. So we really won't know until Sunday night. Yeah, we're not going to know until later on, Saturday afternoon around this time.
Yeah. I think odds are he'll play, though. I think it would take like a flu-like, illness to keep him out, and like serious flu-like conditions into the weekend. So
They're also playing Denver, though. Denver, like, isn't that good. It's also a divisional game now.
Clyde has not been like great though for fantasy. Like Clyde is just not. He's solid. I don't even want to say solid because like when Bell wasn't there, you could at least count on volume for Clyde. But now you can't even count on that. And it's not that even Bell is taking that because Darrell Williams is still involved. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's just a weird situation. Like, Clyde is a guy that you have to play because he's the leader of the timeshare. But Clyde is not, like, an elite fantasy option. He's probably more as, like, a lower-end RB2 on a given week. And including this matchup against Denver, which would probably try and shut opponents down against the run. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out for him. Myles Gaskin, some good news, set to return from IR in Week 13. They played the Cincinnati Bengals. I really wanted to make Myles Gaskin my running back that I'm hyped for this week. But I couldn't double up. Hint, hint. But DeAndre Washington and Salvin Ahmed are both out for this game because I don't know that they contracted COVID, but they were at least put on the COVID list. So they're at the very least high close contacts. So they're out this week. And Matt Breida is out with like a separate issue. Like I think he may have tested positive. But I know all three of them are out. And so that leaves Myles Gaskin and just Myles Gaskin. So yeah, he's gonna get the full workload for sure this week against Cincinnati, who's one of the worst. I won't want to say absolute worst defenses against the run, but
flowchart game though.
Yeah, definitely. And this is with the injury to Burrow recently, this is a game that Miami should handily win. So that implies running.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, what's up?
Can I ask you a quick question? Do you feel better with Ryan Tannehill under center for Myles Gaskin or Tua? Because for me personally, I feel like Fitz or Tua. Which one do you feel better with under center?
I'd have to say Fitzpatrick because he does play for the running back a bit more.
Right.
And I mean, I don't think the interceptions have any role to do with it.
It's fantasy football.
Fitzpatrick helps move the offense, and that leads to more goal line opportunities for Myles Gaskin. So, Tua, I still think he's the future of the team, but he has not shown an ability this season to be, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, what they were doing. So it's a different sort of situation in Miami. And then last piece of news for the week, Allen Robinson was downgraded in Friday's practice. He's now questionable for Sunday's game against the Lions. Bill, you said you did a little more research into this. You want to tell me what you found?
Yeah, shouts to Adam Levitan from Establish a Run for this one. He retweeted a tweet from one of the beat reporters, Chris Emma. You can follow him over at CEmma670 if you're looking for Bears beat report information. He said Allen Robinson left the Bears practice today with a knee injury. Matt Nagy said it was more precautionary matter and doesn't believe it's something serious. Robinson's officially listed as questionable for Sunday's game. From reading that means like he's playing. They just took him out, gave the veteran an early day off. Yeah.
Maybe he said it was like a weird hit and it was a little sore-ish, and then they're like, all right, well, we know you're good and you're going to play. So
what is Allen Robinson about to show you off in practice that you already don't know? If anything, They need to be working on fucking quarterback throws.
question for you for Dynasty purposes, since we are Dynasty Force. Allen Robinson is a free agent after this season. I think it'll be hard to say that he returns to Chicago. I think it's pretty evident he doesn't want to stay there. So it'd probably take a franchise tag for him to stay there. I don't know that Chicago would want to do that. Where would kind of be your dream landing spot for Allen Robinson?
It's a good question, bro. Well, I would want him to be. It's hard because I don't want to pick a team because the teams that have the cap room for Allen Robinson are also due for a quarterback for this upcoming year. But I would like to see Allen Robinson in a.
Let's see. All right, teams that could potentially sign Allen Robinson. Let's say he gets, I don't know, $20 million a year. That's a high number, but we'll just aim high, right?
Yeah.
Teams that have at least $20 million in cap space: Broncos, Cardinals, 49ers, Panthers, Browns, Ravens, Bucks, Chargers, Cowboys. I don't really see a ton of teams from that list so far.
I think the Ravens would be a good spot for him. Maybe not for fantasy purposes, but I think real-life football purposes, him and Marquise Brown with Mark Andrews across the middle may be able to help out some of Lamar Jackson's passing stats or something like that. Better because, a lot of people crap on Lamar Jackson for his passing numbers and stuff like that, but he's also thrown to an undersized wide receiver one. Willie Snead from like 4 years ago when he was relevant from the Saints, who's like theoretically their best pass catcher besides Marquise. And then they have fucking Devin Duvernay, who's a rookie. Yeah. That was like a fourth, fifth round pick.
And then
this is not anybody really good besides Mark Andrews.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And I agree with that completely. Also, though, teams I would be more interested in seeing Allen Robinson sign with: Miami, Washington, New England, and Jets, I guess.
I don't want to see anybody with Cam Newton under.
Cam has that history of throwing to the big body guys, though. And
bro, Cam can't throw a football anymore. It's like real life bad.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I wish I could. All right, let's move on to our main segment, our hype, our hate. Looking ahead to Week 13, guys, that we are excited to play, have on our rosters. And, this is a big week. Like I said before, it's the week before the playoffs. So this is a week where, for a lot of teams out there, a lot of teams are sort of in one position where they're like cooling. They know they're in the playoffs. They know they're seeding. It's really not too often, though, that happens. And a lot of teams are in a position where, like, I have to win this week. I have to make it in. The most important thing is making the playoffs, because you can't win the championship if you don't make the playoffs. It's pretty simple. So worry about getting there. We're here to help. Let's get some hits this week here, Bill, with our hype and our hate. Bill, you want to kick it off at quarterback?
You actually want to kick it off at quarterback? Because my computer just gave out that we're about to die moment.
Oh, my God. That's the worst timing. I'll start it off, though. I am happy to start off. I mentioned that I really wanted to make Myles Gaskin my running back hype for the week, but I did not want to double up. So I had to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick here at the quarterback position. Should he start over Tua? They're saying it's really up in the air right now about Tua starting. I lean on the side that Tua's not going to start because I just don't think Miami needs to rush him into the starting position. And
it's a good spot. I feel like.
Yeah, Cincinnati. It's a great matchup. It's a game, like I mentioned, it's a game that Miami should handily win. Cincinnati really does not have a functioning offense right now. Joe Mixon's out. Joe Burrow's out. So You have Brandon Allen under center. You have Gio Bernard, who can't really do anything from the running back position. You have a terrible offensive line, and Miami's defense is really good. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't want to say that Ryan is going to be lighting the world on fire, but I think he's a really solid start. I think he's probably like a quarterback in that 8 to 12 range. And this is one of those positions where, this week you could be looking at guys on your waiver like Taysom Hill or Ryan Fitzpatrick. Well, there's a chance where, Atlanta is the number 4 run defense on the season. They can be beat through the air, but they're the number 4 run defense, and Taysom Hill hasn't shown a lot in passing the football to this point. So, there's a situation. I know Taysom Hill had a great game a few weeks ago against the Falcons, but there's a chance where he doesn't this week. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, if I'm in a position where I have to win this week in fantasy, I'm going to start Ryan Fitzpatrick over a guy like Taysom Hill for the risk factor and knowing what I'm going to get. Do you feel that same way, Bill?
Yeah, man. Add to your Ryan Fitzpatrick love. That was going to be my quarterback of the week, but I didn't know if it's going to be him or Tua. But one of the things I really like about this matchup this week is the one thing that you can really identify to play a quarterback is if the defensive line is going to be able to get after the quarterback. And the Bengals defense is last in pressure rate stats, and Cincinnati has allowed 22 passing touchdowns this season. So this is a really good spot for Ryan Fitzpatrick to get the Dolphins in a really good spot for the playoff position. And is Flores the most underrated coach in the league?
He might be. This Dolphins roster is really turned it
really
around.
Really good, bro. Really good. Season. Like, they might be able to win a game in the playoffs this year.
They could win a division.
Yeah, if the Bills fuck up a couple of these primetime slots at the end of the year, they can easily win the division.
They have one more game against the Bills, so things work out. Could definitely happen. How about you at the quarterback position here? I assume you're charged up now.
Yeah, I'm charged up now. The quarterback here that I really want to talk about is the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins. I feel like we haven't really give Kirk Cousins love in the podcast the whole entire year, but he's having a season career best year. 20 fantasy points in 3 of his 4 last outings, and the Jags defense is terrible here. Minnesota is I think they have the highest point total team out of all the teams this weekend. So if Dalvin Cook doesn't get it done on the ground, you might see Kirk Cousins get it done in the air. Jacksonville has done a good job this year of backdoor and covering against teams. So I think we can get Kirk Cousins enough passes to be fantasy relevant just one more time here this season. And I really love this spot here for Kirk Cousins. How about you?
Yeah, I honestly think it's a great spot. I would probably be looking to fit Kirk Cousins into my lineup somewhere. Currently on the season, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback 13, and I know you might hear that and be like, well, that's right outside quarterback 1 territory, so he's not that great. But Kirk Cousins has been really solid, and like you said, we haven't talked about him, I don't think, at all. And give the man his due. I'll give you a tough one for this week: Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill going up against Cleveland.
For me, I kind of want to play Ryan Tannehill because Tennessee could easily find themselves. They're a 6-point favorite right now. It was 6.5 earlier this week. Mm-hmm. With Myles Garrett being back, this game might be a little bit closer than the intended Vegas line right now. And if the Tennessee finds himself in a negative game script situation, Ryan Tannehill, from time after time again, you have seen him get the job done on the ground and also through the air. And I feel like he could definitely have another spike day here.
Yeah. I agree with that. I do like that Cleveland-Tennessee matchup. I might have to throw some money on that. Well, in a DFS lineup, stack it up, see how it works out for me. This week at least. All right.
Yeah. Can I actually hit on one news that we forgot to note.
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith is not playing for this weekend. So if you're looking for a tight end, make sure you start either Anthony Ferkster or Jeff Swain.
Ferkser, I think, would be the guy.
Yeah, but look at Jeff Swain's snap usage and stuff last week. He had like 4 catches for like 65 yards last week, while Ferkser didn't really make it onto the field.
Really interesting. I'll have to do more research into that. It's good to know. Might take the little shot there. All right. Let's move on here. Running back position. I'm going to talk about Miles Sanders. I feel like this is a situation where a lot of people are like, he's talking about Miles Sanders, and it's taking the easy way out, just picking a great running back. But for the fellow Miles Sanders owners out there, along with me, they know that Miles Sanders has not been Miles Sanders of recently. Since he's come back from the injury, let's get an exact rating for how good he has been, but it has not been good for Miles Sanders. I think in PPR, the highest he has scored in that span is 13.5 points. So currently, over the last 3 weeks, Miles Sanders ranks as the... Oh, God. I have to find it exactly. But it's pretty far down the list. 24, which, like I said, it's not, Miles Sanders, basically. It's tied with Duke Johnson in fantasy points per game. And behind guys like Jamal Williams, James White, Boston Scott even playing ahead of him. That's really mainly from Boston Scott's one big touchdown in that, what was it, a Giants game? I don't know. Regardless. Miles Sanders has not been Miles Sanders of recent. This week they play the Green Bay Packers, who is the 31st overall defense against running backs this season, so it's a very plus matchup. And the Packers have a pretty good pass defense, so I think if the Eagles want to compete in this game, they have to establish the run, they have to trust Miles Sanders, and he's a talented back, and he's just not getting... He had 6 carries last week. It's just you got to give him the work, and I think we could see that change in play style happen this week, as we kind of watched Carson Wentz on primetime last week and how terrible he was against a defense that to that point had been terrible against quarterbacks. So fingers crossed here on Miles Sanders and that he actually gets to work. That's the X factor for me. If he gets to work, I think he's going to be a great back this week. Billy, let me compare. Would you rather start Miles Sanders this week or Kenyon Drake going up against the Rams?
I'd rather start Miles Sanders.
And let me give you one more here. Assuming that Devonta Freeman does not come back. I've not heard anything about him coming back. Another Wayne Gallman week here. Wayne Gallman against the Seattle Seahawks or Miles Sanders. And Wayne Gallman has been sneaky.
I would say Wayne Gallman because I'm not Colt McCoy, bad real life quarterback, decent fantasy quarterback, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does make sense.
That's the reason why my answer is the way it is.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay-ish real life quarterback, great fantasy quarterback. So
yeah, what I'm saying. Sometimes people don't know how to separate fantasy points.
Winston,
Yeah.
Interesting. I'd be torn. I'd probably start Miles just for the talent. Probably take the talent in that situation, and the matchup. But Wayne Gallman, he's a good start as well. How about you at the running back position here? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the running back that I am hype on this week. We talked about it a little bit in the injury news here. Devontae Booker here. He gets a spot against the New York Jets. I think this is just a really good game script for the Raiders to bounce back here. I know the Raiders are going from East to West Coast, and a lot of people don't want to play that spot. But Devontae Booker here should be getting this Josh Jacobs role. And when he got the Josh Jacobs role last year, man, he was really productive. And going up against the Jets here, I feel like a lot of people, since this news came out on Friday, unless you have Josh Jacobs on your team, you probably didn't really see it or really realize that he hasn't really practiced all week. So they've been game planning with Devontae Booker as the lead the whole entire week. So I really think that he's going to be used. I don't think there be a pass catching game scenario here for a Jalen Richard type of game or something like that, or Theo Riddick, who's also back there also as well. So I think this is Devontae Booker's backfield this week. He has a really good price across the DFS sites, and you can probably sneak him up on a couple of your ESPN waiver wires if he's floating around out there, one of those late waiver wire ads.
He could still be floating out there, and you know what? Devontae Booker, this is not guaranteed by any means, but I saw, and I don't remember exactly who it was, but I did see that the Raiders were trying out a running back, which was kind of big to me because teams in their COVID protocol right now, they can't sign a running back or any player immediately. Like, they try them out or whatever, then they have to clear the protocol, and then they can sign them. And that process normally takes, like, I don't want to say a week.
Weeks.
It takes a while, though. And it definitely wouldn't happen by Sunday. I think I saw this yesterday. And it definitely wouldn't happen by Sunday. So that kind of worries me for the long-term outlook for Josh Jacobs. Like, if the Raiders this late in the season are looking to sign another running back, and, they said, like, the ankle sprain, and it's not something we're worried about and all this, but now here we are, Josh Jacobs is missing games. This could be, I'm not saying it is, I'm hoping it's not, but it could be very similar to the Joe Mixon situation where, we feel confident in him, hopefully it's nothing, all this, and then Joe Mixon has missed the past 5 games. So,
Yeah.
just keep your eye on it, and if Devontae Booker is out on your waiver wire, he needs to be added because he could be more than a 1-week play. And even if he is just a 1-week play, he's a great 1-week play in a must-win week for a lot of teams. So,
yeah.
For me, at the wide receiver position, we touched on the Cleveland-Tennessee matchup a little bit. I'm running it back here. Jarvis Landry for the Cleveland Browns had a great week last week where he really saw a ton of targets. Baker was not great in the game, but Jarvis was still able to get his. Last week was the first real week since Odell Beckham went down that the Cleveland Browns were in a game where they could pass the ball because other games, were all weather related, and it was like just sloppy games where Cleveland would end up winning, but they would control it with the running game and not really do anything in the passing game. And last week it was a weaker matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but here this week this is a weaker defensive matchup against the Tennessee Titans. And Jarvis Landry, I think he'll be needed this week. I don't think, last week Jacksonville competed with Cleveland. I think, as you mentioned, Tennessee is 6-point favorites in this matchup. So Cleveland should have to compete, should have to pass the football here to compete with Tennessee. And I think Jarvis Landry will be the big benefactor of that. How do you feel about Jarvis this week, Bill?
Yeah, Baker almost made my list this week. The Cleveland Browns definitely have had some ugly situations for weather, but Jarvis is finally getting the ball into his hands, and he's been making a lot of usage from it. I really like him for DFS this week. Pretty low price, but there's some other wide receivers I kind of like in that same exact price range also as well, though.
Let me give you a quick comparison. let's say, I don't know, Juju going up against Washington or Jarvis?
I would probably go with Juju here.
He has been very good for a consistent amount of time, so I can see that. I'd probably go with Juju as well if I had to. Last one, Jarvis or Debo Samuel, who's a monster last week, and this week the 49ers are playing Buffalo.
Debo, right? Yeah, I would probably go with Debo. Debo's definitely the spot here. Definitely really love Debo. He's been getting the usage. Alpha receiver for the 49ers. Played him last week in DFS. Really good spot. I think I would go back down the same exact route again. The only reason why I pick Debo over Jarvis is because I feel like Debo can do a little bit more with the ball in his hands than Jarvis can. I know Jarvis is a yards after catch type of guy, but I think Debo is going to get force-fed the ball over there for the 49ers.
Yeah, I like the jet sweep, but the tap pass, like it's technically a catch. So in PPR, you just rack up another point for that, and it's basically a rush. And Debo is like a great rusher, so it just works out like perfectly for them. How about you at the wide receiver position here? And would you take your wide receiver over Jarvis?
Yeah, man. The wide receiver that I'm high on this week is rookie Michael Pittman Jr. from the Indianapolis Colts. They play the Houston Texans this week. Really good spot for him this week against the Houston Texans. Houston Texans are one of the worst pass defenses in the league, and he's been getting used a lot in the passing game. I think he's the wide receiver 1 for the Indianapolis Colts. I feel like a lot of people aren't really on top of that yet with T.Y. Hilton getting the ball used. With T.Y. Hilton being the guy for so long, but I really, really like this spot for Michael Pittman here. He'll be in a lot of my Deshaun Watson stacks.
I think Michael Pittman is in a great spot. A lot of people. So last week, Michael Pittman, I think he finished with 2 catches for 24 yards when T.Y. Hilton had his season high in yards and caught a touchdown. So a lot of people are going to look back at the past week and just say, like, damn, like, T.Y. Hilton again. Like, don't have trust in Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman still saw 9 targets in that game. So I think Michael Pittman and the endorsement in him this week, I really like that. Bill, I'm going to have you run it back here because you have a tight end and I do not. So,
yeah, who's the tight end I picked? Honestly, I kind of forget.
I will remind you on the screen.
Yeah, tight ends don't matter anymore, man. Mike Gesicki here. I really like the spot for Mike Gesicki against Cincinnati Bengals, and one of the worst tight end defenses in the league. So I think Mike Gesicki gets the job done here again. He had a little bit of a scare in the middle of the season, but without Preston Williams being on the field, we remember the splits from over the summer of that. So really good spot here for Mike Gesicki.
I feel that. And Bill has to run out because Bill, as we said at the top of the show, Bill is running a DFS podcast right after this. Or, I'm sorry, not DFS, right? Or, yeah, DFS. Anywho, he is going to start that at 7:10. He will be posting the link on his Twitter at Getting Bills. But in the meantime, Bill has a few hates to hit on before he heads out. So, Bill, quarterback. I don't know why I skipped that.
Yeah, quarterback this week for me is Russell Wilson. A guy that I'm really not too high on this year is Russell Wilson. Not this year, but just this week. This is the time of the year that Pete Carroll really likes to say the 50-yard number or the 50-touch number for running backs or whatever. So I don't like the spot here for Russell Wilson. I think that he's going to bust here. Not bust, but for him to really pay off for what you imagine Russ to do or what he's been doing of recent is way higher than what you're really asking for. Still like DK Metcalf, though. Never not like
DK Metcalf. How do you not?
No matter what the coverage is, he's matchup proof. DK Metcalf to the bank every week.
DK Metcalf is the wide receiver 3 on the season. One of the first episodes that we're going to have after the season is going to be to look back on our preseason takes and kind of review how they went. I know on our My Guy episode, we gave a bust for the season, and I picked DK Metcalf as that sort of bust.
You did not pick DK Metcalf as a bust for the season. I would have stopped the podcast. I would have stopped the podcast.
It was not a bust, but I was saying that he was going too high because he was going ahead of Lockett, and I didn't think he should be. And
I do remember that. I do.
All right, how about the running back position here, Bill?
Yeah, I got to pull up my phone real quick because I don't have the list up off of my computer. The running back I'm fading this week is Brian Hill. Brian Hill, I think he'll get the start with Todd Gurley being out on the bench. I don't know what's up with Todd Gurley, but Todd Gurley's dust. I think people are going to go back to Brian Hill this week, and definitely fading that spot this week. I don't know what it is. Every year there's always that one Brian Hill week, and I always just like, I don't know if it's because I smoke too much weed or something like that, but I always be like, Brian Hill's popping up in these projections. Brian Hill. And then on Sunday night, I'm looking at myself like, thank you, Patty Mahomes, for saving my ass, man.
No, I feel that Brian Hill is I'm a Falcons fan, and I'm not a fan of Brian Hill, so that's all that really needs to be said here. And
don't do my wide receiver fade. I take that one back. I looked into I looked into some stats today around like noon because I was looking at my stacks for the weekend, and I saw I had Robert Woods as a fade, and I looked at his splits.
I'll put it up here just to shame you real quick.
Not a fade. No. I just thought it was more of a Cooper Kupp spot than a Robert Woods spot.
While I agree with you, and I do think it is more of a Cooper Kupp spot, I think they can both succeed. I think what they've said is, or what I've heard, is that Arizona has allowed over 40 points per game to the wide receiver position over the last month because they've had injuries at the cornerback position. I think Byron Murphy is out, and Drake Kirkpatrick is the number 2 wide receiver, and he's bad. And Patrick Peterson likely will not shadow either Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp. He'll probably swap back and forth between them because they're kind of equal.
Kupp's a slot guy.
Kupp is, I don't think he's a slot. Like, he kind of is a slot guy, but he's kind of not.
He's a slot guy.
Where's the, I have not seen, like, snap percentages. I don't want to keep you here too long.
I would have to look on a website or something like that.
Yeah. But we'll hopefully try and remember to look that up. But regardless, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, good plays this week, and not hate. All right, Bill, go have fun on your podcast. I will tune in real quick when I get done here for the people. And thanks again for being with me as always. And we'll be back next week here live.
Yeah, hopefully we have a new time on Friday. Make sure you follow me over on Twitter at Getting Bills. Tweeting out free plays as usual, man. You know how we do over here. And make sure you listen to the Apple Podcast, Spotify, because we got to get those Spotify listens up also as well. So.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong on all major listening platforms. Bill, thanks again. See you in a minute when I tune in to your podcast that will be live on your Twitter.
See you, Robbie.
Gotcha. Before Bill and his podcast begins, I'm going to finish here with my hate for this week. Oh, God, it just made me, like, huge. Is there any way? I don't want to be this big on the screen. I feel like I'm just taking it up, all of it. I don't really like that. I guess I'll just sit back a little bit. All right, here we go. I have my hates to hit on this week, everyone. So I'm going to do this on my own real quick. And these are guys that I'm not excited to play. These are guys that I think have the potential to really bottom out your team this week in a must-win matchup. Let's start at quarterback. I'm taking Deshaun Watson. No more Will Fuller. Will Fuller has been great this season, and the Indianapolis Colts have been great on defense against the quarterback position. Plus, they get DeForest Buckner back this week, who his presence on the defensive end is immeasurable, I'm going to say. You saw last week the Colts defense just kind of fall apart and allow anything to Tennessee, as Buckner wasn't there to kind of lead the defense. So this week with Buckner back, with no Will Fuller, I'm not very excited to play Deshaun Watson, especially considering this could be considered a must-win week for Indianapolis themselves, as they're now one game back behind Tennessee. And I'm not sure they have the tiebreaker, but either way, playoff seeding, it's important that they kind of want to win that division. This is a must-win matchup, a matchup they should win. So I think they're going to work to shut down Deshaun Watson here. And I'm going to skip the running back for now just to play in, because my wide receiver hate is Deshaun Watson's now number one receiver, Brandon Cooks. Same matchup, same take basically here. Colts defense has been great so far this season. And really, you look at the wide receiver depth chart for Houston now. Beyond Brandon Cooks, they have Kiki QT, they have Isaiah Coulter. They don't really have anyone else. They've talked about playing Jordan Akins, who's a tight end, a bit more in the slot. So really none of them are proven threats. Brandon Cooks is a proven threat, and I think it would be a smart game plan on the end of Indianapolis to shut down Brandon Cooks. Make sure he's not the one that beats you. Kiki QT gonna beat you? Okay, let him. Is rookie is he undrafted? I think he was. Isaiah Coulter, who has really not played to this point this season. If he beats you, wow, incredible. Just let it happen. But don't let Brandon Cooks beat you. He is the one proven pass catcher in this offense. So I'm not interested in playing him or Watson this week in this tough matchup. And then to round it out here at the running back position, I'm going to take Kenyon Drake. I mentioned him earlier. Would you rather play Miles Sanders or Kenyon Drake? To Bill took Sanders based on the matchup. I would do the same. Kenyon Drake going up against the Los Angeles Rams, who have been an elite defense to this point this season. They have not gotten the credit for it, but they have been an elite defense. They're great at stopping the pass. They're great at stopping the run. The only thing that has kept Kenyon Drake fantasy relevant this season is touchdowns. He got 2 last week. He had a great week. This week, I just think it's going to be harder to come by. And plus, also last week, Kyler Murray was a bit hindered, I'll say, by his injury. He was not airing it out like he normally would be. And they relied a bit more on the run, especially around the goal line, where Kenyon Drake ended up with 2 touchdowns. I think if you're trying to, have a similar situation where Kenyon Drake, you start him, he has another 20-point week, you would have to rely on multiple touchdowns. I don't see that happening again. Billy had his start of the week here. I'll show you Devontae Booker, as we mentioned before. I am presently starting Devontae Booker over Kenyon Drake in a fantasy league. Talent-wise, it doesn't make sense. I would never want Devontae Booker on my team over Kenyon Drake. But fantasy-wise, fantasy manager, I know what I'm getting from Devontae Booker. And, even if it's not a huge ceiling like Kenyon Drake could potentially have, I know I'm going to get probably 12 to 20 points, somewhere in that range. Kenyon Drake has a very low floor in this game, and I'm not going to take that risk, even though it's not necessarily a must-win week for me. But regardless, especially if you're in a must-win week, I would much rather have the safe floor with Booker, considering he's probably not your RB1 at this point in the season, because Kenyon Drake has not been an RB1 for really anyone throughout the season. So those are my hates to wrap it up. I was hype on Ryan Fitzpatrick, Miles Sanders, and Jarvis Landry. Bill was hype on Kirk Cousins, Devontae Booker, Michael Pittman, and Mike Gesicki. And then for hates this week, Bill was hating on Russell Wilson. Brian Hill, he was assuming that Todd Gurley would be out. I'm assuming that if Todd Gurley was in, he would not be playing Gurley either. And he had no others. He was going to say hate on Robert Woods, but I didn't even have to say anything. I talked him out of that. And then I was hating on Deshaun Watson, Kenyon Drake, and Brandon Cooks. Real quick, before we head out, follow us on Twitter. I mentioned it at the top of the show, Dynasty Force Podcast on Twitter, on YouTube, Dynasty Force Podcast, at Dynasty Force Pod on Twitter. You can always mention us or DM us, regardless. You could talk to us about your start-sit questions. We will answer, and we will help to the best of our ability. And you can follow me on Twitter and do the same exact thing, at Fantasy Force FB. You can tag me, DM me. I'm here to answer all of your questions. And if you really want to ask Bill questions, you can do that too. At getting_Bills_, and he will gladly help you as well. So before I close out here and sign off here on the show, I'm going to share our Survivor picks for this week. As you can see on the screen here, there's a list of teams that we have gone through, and it's piling up as the season goes on, and it's getting rough here. Sadly for me, last week we didn't do this because we didn't have our official Dynasty Force podcast episode. We went on Pub Sports Radio instead. So last week we did not do the Survivor picks. Week 11 was the last week that we did. He went with the Los Angeles Chargers that you see at the end there. And the Chargers beat the Jets. And I took the Minnesota Vikings, who lost to the Dallas Cowboys. So it did not pay off for me. I'm now 2 games behind him with 5 weeks left to play. So kind of rough here. But hoping I can catch up. Really hoping that that's this week that I start to catch up, where I take the Las Vegas Raiders in a smash spot against the New York Jets, the easiest smash spot of the options available to us. And he will take the Chicago Bears going up against the Detroit Lions, who just fired their head coach, Matt Patricia. I'm hoping that the Detroit Lions have a sort of 1 week rally behind Darrell Bevell, their new interim head coach, and instead they beat the Bears, who are in a downward spiral. Fingers crossed so that I can start to close that gap again here on Billy heading in to the final stretch. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. It's a pleasure to bring you this podcast each week, and we may be switching to Friday for a local posting. Catch us live on Twitter at 6 p.m. Eastern, regardless of whether it's on Wednesday or Friday. This may change when the podcast comes out on YouTube, or not YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, major listening platforms. Would go from, I believe it posts on Thursday now, to Saturday, but it would be more worth it because we provide much more accurate content here by giving you the Wednesday show, because injury news is much more clear. We know what we're looking at for the weekend and things like that. It's much more convenient for us. It's much more convenient for the content we bring you. So thanks again for tuning in, bearing with us on this Friday. Hope you get a little, advice heading into your important Week 13 matchup. Hope it helps a lot. Thanks again for tuning in. Catch you next week.